good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us for this week's Thursday with AARP Wisconsin show. I am Amber Miller, your host, and please note this is a pre-recorded show, but you could still post your questions and comments below on Facebook.com or YouTube, and we will make sure to get to them. So, of course, before we get to our guest today, just a few updates. Please check out the AARP Wisconsin website for additional information on upcoming events, both in person and virtual, advocacy information, volunteer opportunities. It really is a great place for all information related to AARP Wisconsin. You could go to the website below, which is aarp.org/WI. We are also looking for volunteers to join our AARP Wisconsin volunteer family. So if you're interested in advocacy, outreach, presenting, going to exhibits, we have an extensive list. We definitely have an opportunity for you, whether it's in person or virtual. For additional information or to fill out an application, you could go to the website below, which is aarp.org/I want to volunteer. It'll give you more information about the opportunities. And once again, you can fill out the application and one of the AARP Wisconsin staff members will get back to you. And of course, we know this is an election year. So if you're looking for additional information, the most up-to-date information, there's two ways that you can do that. If you have a cell phone, you can text WI votes to 22777. Then you'll get a text message back that asks you to join. Or you could go to the website, which is aarp.org/WI votes. So there's two ways that you could do this. This gives you the most up-to-date information on what's going on, all related to voting. So once again, text WI votes to 22777 or visit the website aarp.org/WI votes. So today we are joined by, I always get excited when we have Miss Lisa on the show because she talks all about advocacy related to Wisconsin. So I'd love to welcome Lisa to the show. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Amber. Happy to be here today.
Thank you. And you have a different background today. I think you're in the office.
I am hard at work in the AARP Wisconsin state office. This is where many of us get to serve our members, and I'm excited to be here. So you do get to sort of see the mess that is my office, but it just means I'm working hard.
It means you're working hard. Absolutely. So, so once again, just as a friendly reminder, this is a pre-recorded show, but please feel free to post any questions or comments during the show, and we will make sure to get back to them. So Lisa, there was a lot of exciting news over this past weekend regarding the U.S. Senate passed a bill that would help bring down prescription drug prices, which is huge. So how will this help people in Wisconsin?
Yeah, well, Amber, you are so right, because this really is huge. And I kind of can't say enough sort of how momentous it is, and that we're really on the cusp now of bringing actual relief to people with the high cost of their prescription drugs. So what passed the Senate this weekend is called the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. And it has a whole bunch of policy provisions in it, but some key ones that AARP has been pushing for include various ways to lower the cost of prescription drugs. So for the first time ever, Medicare will finally be allowed to negotiate the price of drugs. It also will help out-of-pocket costs because anyone in Medicare Part D would have their out-of-pocket prescription drug costs capped at $2,000 a year. That is a tremendous savings for a lot of folks in our state. Finally, it will hold, and the next thing is it will hold drug companies accountable if they raise their drug prices more than the rate of inflation. And they have been doing that for years. And, we're all talking about inflation these days. And then finally, I will mention that it caps the copays for insulin at $35 a month for those people in Medicare Part D. I mean, this is huge. This will make a real impact for people in our state. And I do want to say that, AARP Wisconsin thanks Senator Tammy Baldwin for supporting this critical legislation and helping it move really just one step closer so that we can get some real relief.
And I mean, I know AARP, we hear the stories from our members and non-members, our volunteers, and even staff about the high cost of prescriptions. And it should never have to get to the point where you're, deciding, should I get my medicine or should I pay for food? So I know this was very big news over the weekend and very excited, and especially that AARP, is part of this. And Lisa, what are the next steps with this bill?
Well, so now this bill has to go back to the House of Representatives. The House originally passed a bill that had several of these prescription drug provisions in it, but both chambers have to pass a bill with the exact same language. So they made some changes in the Senate, so it has to go back to the House. They have to pass a bill that has the exact same language as the Senate. And once they do that, it will go to the president, who will hopefully sign it. He will sign it, and it will become law. So right now, the House of Representatives, your members of Congress, are currently on what's called the district work period. So they're kind of back in the districts. They might be having some meet and greets. They are kind of going around and talking to constituents. Of course, they're doing a little bit of campaigning since we're in that campaign season. But they have been called back to Washington, D.C. On this Friday to start voting on this package. And so we are very, very hopeful that it will pass this weekend. And we can, really finally see that huge step towards saving money on prescription drugs.
And Lisa, I know AARP definitely, this is, one of the many passions and a lot of the stuff that we fight for, but exactly what was our involvement in this effort?
Yeah, well, really from the get-go, since AARP was founded, we were created to help older adults get access to affordable health care. And that has always included prescription drugs. But honestly, for the last 20 years, we have been fighting to allow Medicare to negotiate these drug prices. And I know that for a fact because I have been here for those 20 years, and we have been working on it as a priority. So it has been a long time in the making. This vote really is historic. I have to say, I think from AARP's perspective, we have had amazing volunteers around our state who have shared their stories again and again with our members of Congress to really highlight just what this means to real people. This isn't just a policy that's out there. We are talking to people who can't afford their medications, who are skipping them, who are paying for their medications with credit cards. We have, a volunteer who shared a story of having to downsize, having to sell their house in order to be able to pay for prescription drugs. So I kind of can't overstate just again how monumental this is. And I think it's really important because while it has been a real challenge with elected officials, it's not a challenge with our members and it's not a challenge with voters. We have done survey after survey that shows huge bipartisan support for these measures. Everybody is tired of paying the highest drug prices in the world. So AARP is continuing. We won't totally celebrate until the president actually signs it into law. We're looking forward to a House vote this weekend, and we're continuing to push our members of the House to pass this as soon as possible.
And Lisa, I have a quick question. You were talking about insulin, there would be a cap on insulin. Is that also for private insurance?
No, unfortunately, what was able to pass was only for people in Medicare Part D. And it was a little bit of a dramatic moment in the vote. So originally, the package did include a cap on insulin prices for people with private insurance. Unfortunately, it was ruled that it didn't meet some of the special budget rules that it needed to meet with this package. So it got taken out. However, when they were debating the measure, there was an amendment to put that back in. Unfortunately, it did not pass. And so at this point, that $35 cap on insulin does not apply to people with private insurance. And you know what? For us, that just gives us the next big fight and the next thing to work for, because we have people who are paying $1,200 a month for their insulin. And so, those members of the Senate who didn't vote for the $35 cap, we're gonna have to work on them and make sure that they can see that people really need this relief. So that'll be our next one of our next battles.
And Lisa, we can assume too, there's been some pushback from, of course, the drug companies that this deal will hurt like innovation, research, and development related to prescription drugs. So what would you say about that?
Well, you're right. And the lobby group for the drug manufacturers, they're called PhRMA. They've really been fighting like crazy to stop this deal. And why? Because the status quo protects their ginormous profits. So they have been trying to scare lawmakers and seniors with several misleading claims and really saying like, if this goes into effect, we won't be able to do research and development. There won't be any incentive to find new drugs. We won't be able to innovate. So I'd really like to lay out some of those truths. I'm really glad you asked me about that, Amber. First of all, it's important to know that the world's leading drug companies spend more on stock buybacks, dividends, and executive compensation than they do on research and development. So they have a lot of money they could free up for research and development that they are currently spending, in other places. It's also super important to know that taxpayers actually fund a lot of the initial research that leads to these new drugs. In the last 60 years, the most important new drugs have all been developed with the aid of public sector research. And a lot of times it's the National Institutes of Health. They played a role in all 210 new drugs that were approved between 2010 and 2016. Sometimes it's universities. A lot of universities, including, University of Wisconsin, in the past have played a role in finding these new drugs. And then the patents, the information gets turned over to the drug companies who take it a step further. But it starts with initial research that was funded by taxpayers. I will say that the Congressional Budget Office, and they're the nonpartisan kind of, scorekeepers on this, they've estimated that there will only be 2 fewer drugs out of an estimated 400 drugs that would come to market over the next 10 years. So I actually think, what we really have to say is the biggest threat to access to the prescription drugs are the prices that continue to skyrocket. And I think more people will have access to drugs once we have these lower prices.
And Lisa, some of the information that you just talked about, is there a website that people could go to review that?
Yeah, well, AARP Wisconsin has links to all sorts of things, so you can check out our AARP Wisconsin website. I would also encourage people to check out the AARP Advocates Facebook page. They are the kind of advocacy arm of our group. They're the social media arm for AARP around advocacy, and they are following this very closely. They'll be giving up to the minute updates. There'll be call for actions, and it's just a great place to get all of the information that people need.
Great, because some of the information you just stated is astonishing, and I definitely want to read more up on it, and I assume some of our viewers do too. Lisa, the Inflation Reduction Act, of course, has been more than just these prescription drug measures. What are some other things in the bill that would benefit people?
Well, another thing that AARP fought really hard for was to extend some assistance for people who are currently on the Affordable Care Act. So there would have been a massive Affordable Care Act premium increase for about 3 million people. But, we were able to stop that from happening. And this is really important for our AARP members who aren't on Medicare yet, right? Those people age like 50 to 64. And they often pay the highest premiums, sometimes up to 3 times more than what other people pay. So we're really happy that there's this additional financial assistance for the next 3 years. That'll give us time to work on it. I think another important thing, and this happens starting next year, so this is a great benefit to our seniors. Important recommended vaccines will be free to seniors on Medicare. And this includes things like the shingles vaccine that has a list price of about $350. So this will immediately save people, save seniors on their out-of-pocket costs, and it'll help as a preventive benefit as well to protect people from illness. I know getting the shingles vaccine is on my to-do list, but I have not done that yet. It also helps low-income seniors pay for their prescription drugs by expanding some access to some low-income programs. And then in addition, and some things AARP didn't necessarily play in, but the package does raise taxes on corporations, and it invests billions of dollars in climate change. And it does all of this while reducing the deficit by billions of dollars. So a lot of stuff in there, and a lot of good stuff for our seniors.
Great. And what can our viewers do to help support this bill?
Well, right off the bat, because at this point we have had only a vote in the Senate, I would encourage people to call Senator Baldwin and tell her thank you for voting for this bill. So we have certainly voiced our thanks, and we do appreciate her leadership on this. And again, I would encourage people to check out that AARP Advocates Facebook page. There'll be action alerts. Will be up to the minute updates on the vote in the House this week. And I know we do have a new blog posted on our website that at aarp.org/WI, where people can see the press release that we put out following the Senate vote. So lots more to come on this issue. Hopefully a celebration in the very near future. And we will definitely be keeping our members updated on the final actions on this.
And Lisa, I know we probably have just a few minutes left, and I always like to, put you on the spot a little bit, but always appreciate you, talking about prescription drugs and all that AARP is doing. Is there any voter information, we know this is a big year, that you would like to chat about before we end the show?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because there's still a tie. Prescription drugs continues to be one of our top issues when it comes to the election. And as we move now from the primary election to the general election, we really will be focusing on making sure that candidates know the issues that are important to Wisconsin voters. So lowering prescription drug prices, protecting Social Security, shoring up Medicare, making sure Medicare is there for folks, making sure that we have a good working long-term care system, and then just some overall making sure that there is economic health, that we're dealing with inflation. Inflation's really tough on seniors, and we want to make sure that continues to be a priority. Helping family caregivers, always a priority. And then, making sure there's access to affordable broadband service across the state. So we have tons of issues we want to talk to people about. We will be hopefully, going to some locations around the state. We'll be traveling in an AARP voter van to various events. And so, if you see that we're coming to a city near you, come stop by, say hi. We'll have some terrific information. And, most importantly, we want to encourage people to vote. AARP is nonpartisan. We'll never tell you who to vote for, but we really do want folks to know what their options are and make sure that everybody gets out to vote.
And producer Ann Clam, if we could pull up the voting website and text, I just want to do a friendly reminder. Once again, Lisa's talking about, there's so much important stuff going on, but we also want to make sure you have the most up-to-date information about voting or candidates, all that good stuff. So you could text WI votes to 22777 and you'll receive a text message. It does confirm that you want to join, which means you'll get text message and some additional information about election information. Or you could go to the website, aarp.org/WI votes. Thank you so much, Courtney. I know, when we're talking about voting, we've had you on here many times, Lisa. I still meet people who are like, I didn't know there was a primary. I didn't know there was, maybe a local election. And I think if you want to talk about that resource, maybe just one more time. I don't think I did it justice.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'll just point out, you can tell voting is an issue near and dear to my heart. You can see my voting poster behind me. I can't get my finger to move right there. Vote. So yeah, and I'm really excited about this resource that AARP has, because it's a terrific Wisconsin-specific voter guide. It lays out all the important deadlines. The next deadline that we're looking for, of course, the next election will be the general election on November 8th. But there are some deadlines before that folks might want to be aware of. And if you go to that website, you can find out, when's the last day to request your absentee ballot? When will there be early voting? When's the last day to register to vote online if maybe you've happened to move? So it will have all of that information. It has links to where you can request an absentee ballot. It has the information you need, to properly fill out and return your absentee ballot. So it really is a treasure trove of, election information that is specific to Wisconsin. And I think that's really one of the key points, is that, if you can't remember any other websites, you can go there and you can figure out and it'll tell you what to do, and then it will lead you to the place where you need to make it happen. So it really is a fantastic resource.
Great. Well, Lisa, as always, thank you so much for being here and talking about prescription costs and also the upcoming voting season. I would say upcoming. It's been voting season. So we so appreciate you being here. Of course, you're always welcome, and we'll have you on soon talking about probably more voter stuff, but we appreciate you being on today.
Well, thanks, Amber. It is always a pleasure to come, and thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you. And as always, we like to plug some upcoming events, both virtual and in person, that might be of interest to you. Thursday, August 11th, Movies for Grownups. Be 13 lives. Friday, August 12th, Supercharge Your Job Search, Networking, and Interview Skills. This is in person at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites in Milwaukee. You can find the information at the website below, including registration. Thursday, August 16th, Food and Drink, the History of Soda in America. That's my guilty pleasure, so I might actually watch that one. Friday, August 19th, another Movies for Grownups, the oldie but goodie, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I shouldn't say oldie. It's just a goodie. It's a goodie movie. And Tuesday, August 23rd, The Cost of Medicare Fraud. There's a lot of really great opportunities for you. So please go to the website below, or you can register online by calling 877-926-8300. Small Dollar, Big Impact, of course, is a grant that AARP Wisconsin awards every month to local nonprofits, municipalities, and similar. So if you have a really fun, creative, cool, innovative, out-of-the-box idea that you would like to bring to your community that impacts our 50-plus community, we invite you to go to the website below, which is aarp.org/WISDBI. The next application is due August 16th. It is a fairly short application, but does ask you some information about your actual project, the budget, all that good stuff. So please consider applying for that. Once again, August 16th, you can find the information below. For next week's show, getting there. You could join us for next week's show. More information will be posted on Facebook about that. But once again, this is pre-recorded. Please leave your questions and comments below. We want to hear from you. We so appreciate you being here today, and we look forward to seeing